Hello and welcome to another Etch Play video. I'm Ben Joy and today I'm joined by the head of the Etch Play team, Dan Thomas. And we're going to be talking to you about something which hopefully you've seen us talk about before in some of our blogs, and that's the extended experience. Now, Dan, you're probably the most passionate person I know about the extended experience, so I think it's only fitting that you explain what that is.
Yes, so the extended experience is a term that I coined, and we all know I love the sound of my own voice, so of course we use it a lot, but it is actually very meaningful. From the perspective of a game studio or a games publisher, what the extended experience is the consideration of all of the touch points a player or a potential player may have with a game or a brand that falls outside of the core gameplay experience. So when we refer to the core experience, we're talking about there from the minute a player puts the disc into their console or opens the game, launches the game on a mobile device. That's the start of the core experience. That's when they're actually playing the game up until the point where they close the game and then they kind of switch context to do something else. Now that is the core experience, but that isn't the only experience a player has with a game or with a brand. And actually the extended experience starts from the very first time somebody hears about your game. So as soon as it's on their radar, they are starting their extended experience all the way through to potentially years in the future, and they're reminiscing from a retro nostalgia perspective about a game. It's still a part of their extended experience with that game. So that's why we use the term extended experience, and by giving it due consideration, thinking about all of these touch points that a player has with a game, you can start to plan and consider what that experience is, which can overall deliver a much better sort of player life cycle with a brand.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that you said about it beginning as soon as you hear about a game, because that's so true. And we know, having worked with studios before a game comes out and after a game comes out, that we typically do see when something happens in a game's life cycle, there is a huge spike, which is immediately followed by a massive drop down. And I guess what the extended experience is trying to do is to try and stop that such sharp spike down and try and keep it a little bit more level by having these experiences that keep you engaged with the game, because I think that's why the extended experience is so powerful, because of the value that it brings to both the players and the studios. From the studio's perspective, it's keeping the game front of mind when you're not playing the game, because we know, as much as players we would love to be playing the game constantly, we have other things to do. So if we can keep in a player's mind when they're out on the bus or they're out doing something else, then when they do come back to play the game, that's going to be front of mind because they were thinking about it. And also from a player's perspective, we know on a personal level that when we're interested in something, we like to get as much out of it as possible. We like to get invested in things. So if we have those chances to keep playing the game or keep experiencing the game when we're not playing it, then that's really, really valuable to a player.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about that mind share. And as you say, when you announce the game, that's when you're going to get this huge spike of interest. And then if you've got nothing else, it's very easy to lose that mind share. Like you said, very, very rapidly. Oh, get all excited about the announcement, and then there's nothing whilst we get back to finishing the game. And the extended experience is an opportunity to capitalise on that spike, keep the audience retained, keep filling your total audience. So, as we know, kind of the two main considerations for a game are the acquisition and the engagement, or the retention of players, and the extended experience is very much focused on that. So how do we get awareness, how do we maintain awareness, and then if we can occupy that mind share of the player, so yes, when they're on the bus, they are planning their first play session or their next play session, they might be configuring their loadout, or they're doing some investment into the game, so when they do get back into the context of their core game playing experience, your game is the game they're going to play because they've made that investment and they've been thinking about it, and it's they're not coming to this from cold.
Cool, yeah, exactly. So I think at this point it would be good to maybe look at some examples, because although this isn't quite as considered as we would like it to be. There are some really good examples of games and studios that have done this, so maybe let's dive in and have a look at a few.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, this isn't something I've invented. I've just coined this term to sort of make the wider process experience. But essentially, this falls under the banner of marketing, communications, companion experiences, and like you said, there are things out there that do exist. There are some really good examples of this. So let's take a look. So this is the Galactic Atlas. This is a web-based companion experience for No Man's Sky, and the fine folks at Hello Games who we worked with on this had identified that whilst the game was obviously extremely popular, doing extremely well, there was a lot in the game that they weren't able to get across in the initial launch and the announces, and so they were aware that the community were doing some incredible things, making amazing discoveries, making their own games, just kind of treating the No Man's Sky universe as a sandbox, and they wanted a mechanism to share these stories and these experiences beyond the kind of traditional marketing channels. So we built this as the Galactic Atlas, and what we're essentially presenting here are a bunch of what are referred to as community hubs. So players in the No Man's Sky universe were congregating in certain areas and, as I say, kind of creating their own experiences within No Man's Sky. A good example of that is this place here. This is the original Galactic Hub that kind of was somewhat the catalyst for these player communities, where a bunch of players decided we're all going to go to this part of the universe and we're going to try and discover everything there is to discover in a particular place. So we wanted to highlight that and show there are these communities, there are these things that they're doing. They are discovering all of the solar systems within an area, and we've got the description. We're surfacing sort of heroes who has done the most discovery within this area, and various other useful, interesting points. What we also identified as part of developing this was there were a lot more community hubs. I think we originally expected there to be about 12, and there were a lot of these. But also, even within those hubs and beyond, there were player stories outside of these hubs, and just individual players making their own fun, having their own story to tell. So we organised a process where we reached out to the community and we canvassed feedback and got players to submit their own stories, and which is what all of these points plotted here are, where players could upload images and describe the experience they had. And yeah, from the original 12, we ended up with several hundred, I think maybe even thousands of submissions, and we kind of curated the best of those. And there's all sorts of things, from amazing discoveries to discoveries that were named after lost loved ones or celebrities, kind of in honor of, all sorts of amazing things. And that was the purpose of this, was just to share that No Man's Sky was a lot more than just kind of the discovery experience that is kind of the core of the No Man's Sky play experience, but the community made it so much more, and the Galactic Atlas was kind of a homage to that effort and recognition and a bit of signposting, and yeah, it's been a really great project.
Yeah, what I really like about this is, because obviously it launched a year or two after the game came out, it would be quite easy to put this down as pure engagement piece, which I would say it very much falls into the engagement category, because it really fits that bill of, I'm not playing the game and I want to be thinking about the game, and I'm out on the bus and I can look at the Galactic Atlas and I can start looking at areas that maybe I want to go explore, because what this has is like portal code so that you can find the areas. So that's a really good piece of keeping you thinking about the game, thinking about the next time you play the game or you're not. But I think also this is a really nice acquisition piece, because if you're someone who plays No Man's Sky and you're trying to get someone to play No Man's Sky, or you just happen to come across it, if you see this as your first engagement with it, this is really interesting to look at. Oh, I didn't realize the game was all about this. This is really interesting, and I could actually get involved in this once I start playing the game. So I think it fits really nicely into both of those categories of interesting new players, and also keeping the existing players feeling recognized and feeling engaged, and giving them something else to do outside of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the acquisition piece, you're exactly right. So if you are a current player and you submitted your story, and then you were featured on the Galactic Atlas. We've got every one of these points is individually addressable, so you could go and share your point of interest and share your experience, share your story, which of course is the gateway for potentially new people. This is a web-based experience, and obviously everybody has a web browser. It works on mobile, so this is an extremely low barrier to entry peek into the No Man's Sky universe, and yeah, really good for acquisition and really good for recognition and engagement. So this next example, as you can see, is the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag companion app, and this I think is probably the first experience that got me, that started my thinking around this extended experience. So Black Flag is really great Assassin's Creed game. It's got this element to it where, as we can see, you kind of captain of a pirate ship, get to sail around the Caribbean. And what they did with the companion app, one of the standout features of the game, or one of the standout elements of the game, is when you're sailing from point to point, you have these, your crew will sing these sea shanties, and they're really catchy, really kind of fun songs, and they're great to listen to anyway. So one of the features of the companion app was you can actually just listen to MP3s of the sea shanties, and another element in the game, there is a mini game which is you can actually obtain other ships and send them out on missions to go and deliver things or do piratey things and earn in-game currency. Now that mini game they replicated in the companion app, and this is something when I was playing, made quite extensive use of. And what it allowed you to do was build your in-game currency whilst you weren't playing the game. And this very much, we talked about this impact of having an experience away from the core game that is an investment into your core playing experience. So I would be away from the game, I would be playing this mini game on my mobile device and building up the money that I had. And when I got back to my core gaming experience, I could upgrade my ship, I could buy decals and weapons and whatever else. I had made that investment. So yeah, that was really, it's quite a few years old now, but really effective, and yeah, really had that kind of engagement piece ticked off really nicely.
Yeah, companion apps are great because, as you say, it gives you the opportunity to interface with the game, and then you are getting that extra value of you being able to interact with the game and being that game space while you're not playing the game, but also you can hook into the real game. So you are, as you said, you're almost playing the game while you're not playing the game, and that really is a lot of value to the player.
Absolutely.
So this is Space Team VR, which we were actually lucky enough to work on with Cooperative Innovations. And Dan, you were very, very heavily involved in this. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, certainly. So Space Team VR is, as the name might suggest, the VR incarnation of an existing really popular mobile game, Space Team. And this puts the Space Team mechanic, which is a cooperative game where you shout things at each other. So you're flying a spaceship and you need to communicate with your crew, your fellow crew, to perform certain actions. And yeah, the concept is really fun. It had a successful mobile game in existence, and our friends at Cooperative Innovations took this into the VR world. Where we came in is VR offers a really incredible experience. You can see this here. This is Adam and myself playing, and Adam's in VR, and it's very immersive. That's kind of the premium experience. But to get the premium experience, you need specific dedicated hardware. It's not necessarily the cheapest, most accessible form of experiencing this Space Team game. So we created a companion app, a web-based version that you could play with somebody who is in VR. And so this is actually an extended experience that is played alongside the core experience. So yeah, we talk about companion apps. This very much fulfills that, but it's actually a multiplayer companion experience. So Adam's in VR and I'm playing on my phone. And what that opens up is, rather than requiring several people in the same place to have multiple VR kits, you can have the one VR player playing with, and I think it's up to 6 co-players who can be on phones or on their laptops. Just really widened the potential player base for this gaming experience. So this is Overwatch, and in the lead up to the launch of Overwatch, they released a series of animated shorts. This is one of which we're looking at now. And this was, again, a really effective, different channel of introducing the world of Overwatch, the characters of Overwatch, before the game was available. And what was interesting with this is, sort of, typically when games are announced, sometimes they're announced with a CGI trailer, and this can receive a bit of a backlash because it's not representative gameplay, that isn't the game. And what I love about this, that really embraces that, flips it around and says, no, yeah, this is not gameplay, this is not the game, this is the universe that we are creating. And these are some extremely high quality, really fun and interesting stories to get people invested, and they are enjoyable to watch and experience in and of themselves. And the fact that they're a precursor and building that passion for these characters and this universe in anticipation of the game being available was really effective. And this video itself, 12 million views, something like that, so it worked, it was effective.
Yeah, I think, as you said, like, what's great about these is that it gives you that backstory to a character, and it lets you really get invested in a character even before you're playing the game. It's something actually that way back maybe 2009, Team Fortress 2 actually did as well. They did a Meet the Team series of videos, and Team Fortress 2 is not really a game where it's not really character based. It's, you have characters, but there's not a lot of depth to them. What the series allowed them to do is to give you that context of a character and let you find out a little bit more about them, so that when you went into the game, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to use the medic because he looks cool. It's like, oh, I've watched this video and actually I can see all these things extra about the character, and now I really like this character for who it is rather than just what it looks like. And I think this is the same with the Overwatch shorts. And as you said, the production value on these is incredible. It's really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, very, very much so. And what's also nice with these is there's 2 benefits for a game studio that stands out. This kind of, first of all, you are building hype, you're building excitement, you're getting investment from your audience whilst you're still potentially making your game. So your production team can stay focused, they can be delivering, and then you have another team producing this. You're not getting the same people to do all of these, so that allows you to kind of multitask effectively in terms of audience engagement, which is really good. And additionally, for any staff that you can actually assign to give some time to this, so in this instance I imagine writers, they are getting to do more with their creations, so you're giving them a whole new canvas on which to experiment and play. And perhaps you can't get this level of storytelling into live action gameplay, but they have these rich worlds, these backstories, these character traits that you want to communicate. What a great platform for your writers, very fulfilling for them, give them a real chance to experiment and play in a different playground than what they are traditionally used to. So really valuable for the studio, for your employee retention, your employee satisfaction, and you're getting your reach and your audience acquisition ticked off as well.
So this is an example that I really like, and this is a comic series that Borderlands put out. And I think the reason why I like this so much is that it is quite different from some of the other examples, in that it takes you completely out of the digital space and gives you something completely different that isn't really what you would necessarily relate to a video game. But actually, I think this does really go hand in hand nicely with video games. Comic books and video games feel like a nice partnership because they're both very visually led, they have strong narratives, and although on the surface it doesn't feel like 2 things that would go together, I think I think really it is a very strong partnership. And what this does is it really lets, I think, the people involved in creating the game have a lot of fun, which is really what the extended experience is all about. It's about trying to increase the fun for everybody. So it lets the narrative side of the game really come out and explore stories that you potentially wouldn't explore within the game, which has got to be fun for the studios. And also, if you're invested in a game and you're invested in a character, to get the opportunity to see them in a different medium and see them take on a different story, then as a player, then that's really going to interest me and really add a little bit of extra layer when I then come to play the game, to have this additional context that you haven't actually been given in the game. So I really, really like the comics. And I think Modern Warfare also did this with maybe Modern Warfare 2 with Ghost. It's just really, really strong.
Like I say, I think it's a really good sort of complement to the game experience. You've also got perhaps a wider interest group, so people who are not necessarily going to discover and be interested in the game. They might be a comic book fan, and this is a really good introduction to that. And equally, going the other way, you've got avid fans of the Borderlands series will see that there's comics available, and maybe that will be their introduction to the world of comics, and that's a great sort of, let's say, kind of relationship between this physical medium and the digital space. So yeah, it's really nice. So this is another really good example. This is Fallout Shelter, which is originally a mobile game released by Bethesda as part of the marketing campaign for the then upcoming Fallout 4. So this was a game that was essentially an advert, a marketing campaign for another game, but it was so successful. And it was announced. They announced Fallout 4, and then they announced and released Fallout Shelter at the same event, and immediately it got into top of the App Store, millions of players. So it actually became an overnight success in its own right, and such a powerful experience that not only served to promote the upcoming Fallout 4, but also brought a whole new mass of audience into the Fallout universe via this highly successful game. The launch of Fallout 4 was just littered with really good examples of the extended experience. So there were video shorts, there were a lot of merchandise. On the actual release of the game, you could get a Pip-Boy, which was like a physical clothing accessory that allowed you to house your phone, which also had its own companion experience for the game. And yeah, Fallout Shelter, I think, was the start of what was a really, really impressive campaign for the entirety of Fallout 4.
Yeah, it's really clever to announce a game with a game, because what do gamers love? They love playing games. So why would you not want to play a game in anticipation of ramping up your excitement to play the full game experience? And as we spoke about earlier, as we said, we see when there is an announce or something happens, you have a huge spike and then immediately it drops off. Whereas with something like this, you have the announce and it's like, by the way, guys, here's a game that you can now actually go and play pretty much straight away. And then it just levels it out. You don't have that sharp decrease. It keeps people talking about Fallout. So it's a really clever tactic that they use there, and yeah, a really strong extended experience. So thanks for joining me, Dan. That was great. It's so exciting to look at these extended experience and talk about it. And every time we do talk about it, which is a lot, I get more and more excited about it and the possibilities that it brings to studios, and just so thankful that we get to do this all the time, because it really is fun. And hopefully what this video has done is shone a bit more of a light on it, and hopefully got the brain whirring for all the possibilities that can be done, because as you said, the possibilities are endless. You're limited by your imagination with this, and yeah, it's just a really exciting possibilities for game studios and for players as well.
Yeah, like I said, we talk about this a lot, so if anybody is interested, do reach out. You can follow us on all the social platforms, EtchPlay, or follow us on YouTube, and yeah, if you've got any ideas of your own, let us know.